In the Distance by Hernan Diaz, what I would describe as a left field Western novel. In it, we follow Håkan Soderstrom, or Hawk, a young Swedish immigrant who becomes lost in America in the 19th century. Upon his arrival to America, he is with his brother. They very quickly become separated. He ends up by himself, which sets him on a journey to try and find his long-lost brother. It takes him all across the country, where he meets all kinds of different characters, and he gets put in a lot of really weird situations. Some of them are funny. Most of them are sad and bleak and depressing and incredibly brutal. That by the end of the novel, he almost has become this legend or myth of the American West. And I thought that this was fantastic. Mwah, loved it. It's really subversive and unorthodox for the Western genre, which I really liked. This is kind of like a pre-Civil War time period, very early American frontier. So there's a lot of immigrants from all over the place, and it's just a side of American history that I don't think I personally have seen a whole lot of. This is definitely not your stereotypical cowboy shoot 'em up Western. Like, not at all. It's super brutal, it's really lonely, and it's unforgiving without being overly violent. The writing is really well done too. It's got just the right amount of like pizzazz and flowery language while also just being able to get to the point. Our main character, Hawk, he is such an interesting character. I really enjoyed following him. He comes across as more of an observer than anything else, and that's a lot to do with his language barrier. When he comes from Sweden to America, he doesn't speak English, and it takes him a long time to pick up on the language. Nobody around him is teaching him anything, so he's just learning it as he goes. So he spends a lot of his time being very silent and just letting others talk and just watching everything around him. And we get to watch as Hawk is this lonely, lost Swedish boy, not really able to convey how he's feeling about things, not having the confidence or really ability to control any of his surroundings or the situations that he's in, to becoming a very incredibly strong and capable guy. And by the end of the novel, he has become this myth where most people don't even believe that he's real because of all the things that he's done. I thought that the pacing of this was really good. All of the situations, everything goes by very smoothly. There is one part of it where I did get a little hung up. It was really starting to lose me. But it was minor, it was short, and honestly, I think it was kind of the point given what the situation was and what Hawk was going through at the time, so I can forgive it. I never felt like things were being over-described. Most of this book, I felt like I was right there with Hawk. Diaz is able to visualize these situations and landscapes and people very well. I really did feel like I had a very vivid picture of what was happening. And yeah, I thought that this was a really good book. I do recommend it. If you want to see my final review, go ahead and skip ahead to the end. I'll timestamp that below, but I'm about to get into spoiler territory, so give you the opportunity to get out of here if you don't want to be spoiled. Okay. I talked a lot about the characters and the unorthodox nature of this story, and I feel like that was a major strength to it. It made it so interesting. I was constantly like, whoa, who is this guy? Not even really thinking that a person like this would exist in the American West, but obviously it had to have. You just never really knew who you were going to encounter next, and I loved that. Some of the ones that stood out, the gilded lady that Hawk basically becomes a sex slave to, it's really disturbing. And I thought that this character was so fascinating and so scary. It turned the book into somewhat of a horror novel. Like a lot of Western novels do tend to have horror elements to them. It's just very real and historical what's happening, and so it's not really recognized that way. But there's a lot of things that happen in this book that you could classify as horror, and I really liked that. And this character in particular was probably at the top of that mountain. It was this very like quiet despicableness to her, and the power that she wielded over everyone around her just made her so like, yeah, very scary. There's a super strong theme of obsession in this book, from not just from Hawk trying to find his brother, but from a lot of the characters around him and that he encounters. We have the father of the Irish family that Hawk first meets and goes into the West with. Once he gets separated from his brother, and this man finding gold and digging up gold and his obsession with never stopping. There's no amount of gold that he can find that is enough. And eventually it gets him killed, as well as his whole family. Then there's the naturalist that Hawk meets, who is on the search for ancient prehistoric life. They end up going to some salt flats, and his obsession with finding this, this evidence, these microbes or whatever it is that he's looking for, it almost gets him and the entire crew killed. And I think that that's just such an American, theme in general, the American dream, and how if you come to America, you can make it, and everything's going to be awesome, and your dreams will become a reality if you just come here. And it's such a lie that's sold. People become obsessed with this idea that things are going to work out for them and everything's going to be great. But that road is paved with broken dreams. This is also an incredibly sad story. It's bleak. There's little bits of hope here and there. Hawk meets people and makes companions and finds love sometimes, and all of that gets stripped away from him at some point, to the point that it made me want to scream. You feel terrible for this guy. I think the worst of all for me was his horse, Pingo. That stupid horse. It was eating sand and doing all kinds of stupid shit. Literally just trying to get itself killed, it felt like. But Hawk tries so hard to save this horse's life. And those parts were really tough, and eventually when Pingo does die, it hit me really hard. I did not like that at all. I mentioned earlier about a section in the book where I felt like the pacing was losing me. It was slowing down and getting maybe a little too drawn out and tedious. And that was the part where Hawk was kind of living underground in a cave like a hermit for a long time, losing his mind, losing sense of time, and, everything that's going on around him. He was in isolation for such a long period that he was really unsure of kind of reality, is what it seemed like. And I understand why the writing was the way that it was. It got a little confusing, a little disjointed. It drew out for what I felt like too long. But I can forgive it because that's what it's supposed to be, right? We've been following Hawk and everything that he's encountered, so why shouldn't we have to also endure this weird slowness and disjointed narrative, because that's what he's feeling. So while I get what it's doing, that was really the only part of this book where I felt like, come on. But overall, I would give In the Distance a 4.5 out of 5. Again, just that one section that just felt a little too slow for my liking. Other than that, everything else about this book is great. I think it's really good. I would recommend this to somebody who, if you like Westerns, definitely check this out. But if you aren't really interested in the cowboy, bang bang, shoot 'em up type of Western, this is absolutely the one that you want. This story is just so different. And on top of that, this journey that we go on with Hawk is just great. Everything that happens to him, it's so, it's told really well. I felt like I was there. There's a ton of character development, and the writing is really good. Yeah, it's just a pretty unforgettable book for me. Definitely a high mark this year. One of my favorites so far. Really enjoyed it. Definitely check this out. But what do you think? Have you read In the Distance? Do you like it as much as I do? Let me know in the comments below. Do you have any other unorthodox Westerns that I could maybe check out? I feel like every Western that I've read so far is very cowboy oriented, which I love, don't get me wrong. This one was cool because of how different that it was. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching. Bye.